Well, hey everybody, it is me, and it's Friday night. I'm usually not on this time of night. Uh, I'm usually not on Friday nights, but it's something to 11 here, and I just wanted to come on for a few minutes, and let's just have a chat tonight. Those of you that are coming in, let's just chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Uh, well, of course, you know the big thing that has happened here in the ATL in Georgia, should I say, the state, and that's happening all over the country, is that, well, basically the GOP and those that uh, fed into those things that were put out about the election. Now they've got 250 some things that they're trying to do in these states to change the laws of voting, and what many are calling voter suppression. Hey, calling voter suppression and stuff. And so we've got these things going on. And I know usually sometimes we don't talk about these things connected to church, but I want to take it past that point of view of that spectrum tonight when it comes to these things that we're dealing with. Now, here in Georgia, the Governor Kemp, signed a law last night behind closed doors with about 6 or 7 House senators and different people in that made it where they changed the rules, changed the voting rules. And I don't know, I think it's a 90-page document. I don't even know if the governor even read the thing before he signed it. But anyway, they signed it. So here's what we've got. We've got where they have changed the rules. And I want you to get this because this is important for us to understand. Every time something is put in place that is not to benefit people of color, you'll find that when we find and discover how to use it, people change the rules on how it is to be done. And that's not just for politics, that's in a lot of things. When they discover that we are smarter than they thought we were, and we sort of, go in and what rules they put in place, we adopt to them and then we use them, and then they start changing the rules. Now, it was the GOP that put in place the absentee ballot, and they even won a couple of elections with, you know, still they won an election with some of these things being done. But when I, used the absentee ballot last year simply because it was the pandemic, I usually go and vote. But when I went online to get my absentee ballot, we already had to submit our driver's license number in order to even get verified to get an absentee ballot. And then they said that it was voter fraud, and even the governor himself said there was no voter fraud. The Secretary of State said there was no voter fraud. But because of what the former president and his people put out, they used that as a means to create a law that will do suppression, voter suppression. And so they've changed the rules when we found out how to use them. It's the same way they did when they, if you remember years ago, you would wonder why people had lost their jobs and other things would happen, and they could still keep all their items. They could keep their house, they could keep their car. Well, they had bankruptcy. Chapter 11, of course, was reorganization. Then Chapter 7 was complete bankruptcy. And their things were cleared. They were able to keep stuff and do the things they needed to do. Well, what happened was when people of color discovered that you could use bankruptcy and keep your stuff the same way other people were doing, then they came in and changed the rules. And then they changed the rules where certain things didn't apply. You can't do that anymore. You can't do this. So they changed the rules. Every time we discover something, that a rule they put in place, and when we find out that we can take these rules and play the same way they've been playing, then they change the rules. Or it's not 10 yards anymore to the first down. Now you got to go 15 yards. So they keep moving the ball. They keep moving the yardstick. They keep changing the rules. And this is simply what this is a change of the rules, because we're going to change the rules to see. The rules have been changed so much now, from what I understand, even in this particular law that the governor signed last night, and that's why I don't think he even read it, where it is a misdemeanor for anybody to give anybody water or food while they're in line voting. And if it's a long line, it's a hot day, you can't give anybody food, you can't give them anything to drink as far as water. What kind of craziness and foolishness is that? Who does that? That just shows you to what extent they want to change the rules to make sure that they are covered. And I think it's important for us to understand that the rules are being changed all over the country, and they're being changed all over the world. And they're changing the rules to benefit or to assure that what happened never happened again. And they've disguised it under voter protection or under transparency of a vote, or to make sure that there's no whatever. Now, whenever the governor for weeks said there was no cheating, there was no anything. Even the Secretary of State said it, and his assistant went off on everything, and all of these things. But they signed on to this particular law and said, "But this is going to help the voting process better." How can you, in all those weeks, say nothing was wrong, and then all of a sudden sign on and say, "Well, this is going to better things"? It's changing the rules, and that's all it is. And we need to get that. We need to understand that whenever, not just in politics, whenever we discover the things that other people have done for years and worked for them, and they used it to get an advantage, to be ahead. But when we discover that these rules just don't apply to them, but they apply to us also, and we start using those things to get an even playing field or to get ahead, then they start changing the rules all the time. And this is what that simply is changing the rules. Well, you would say, well, they changed the rules, then how do we get around this? What do we do to get around that? Well, I tell you what we do. Here's an idea for us to look at. They changed the rules, and if the courts don't change them back, if the courts don't put an injunction against what is signed in, then we take the rules and win again. Well, how do you do that? We take the rules. They said you can't do this at a certain hour. You got to have identification so you can get an absentee ballot. Those that have identification get the absentee ballot. Those, if you don't, when they have early voting, go and just take the whole day knowing that you're going to have to stay in line all day, because that's what they want you to get discouraged. Stay there, and as long as it takes to vote. Then those that don't have a way to get to the voting stations and polling places, then we've got to do what Dr. Kingdom did. When Rosa Parks wouldn't give up her seat and she was arrested, and when they did what they did, Dr. Kingdom organized. And when they got through organizing, they literally shut the bus system down because they wouldn't ride the bus. They refused to ride the bus. They refused to get on the bus. They stayed off the bus. They didn't get on the bus. And the bus system just sort of went down. They said, we'd rather walk than get on the bus. We'd rather carpool than get on the bus. Then we've got to find a way to provide a way for our people to make it to the polls to vote. We're going to take their rules. We're going to take their rules, and we're going to use these things and do it and make it work. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to see how that works in order to, with the rule change, what they're doing, how we're going to do this. We're going to make it work and understand that too many of our people, our foreparents and those, they were, how can you put it? They were dog sicked on them and everything else to make sure that we had the right to vote. And we shouldn't let anybody take away that right to vote. And so the rules, if they change the rules, we're going to take the same rules that they've changed and the ones they put in place, and we're going to win with their rules. Think about that. We're going to win with their rules. We're going to do it, and we're going to be successful with what they say can't be done. And that's how we got to look at this. We got to look, because this is not an attack just on people of color. This is an attack on everybody. And as long as we stand by and be silent and don't say anything, with the platforms that we have and the social media and everything else, then the next time something does not go their way, that may not even be in the area of voting, they will change the rules again. They'll keep pushing that ball and moving that yardstick. You'll never get a first down because they're gonna keep moving the yardstick down. They're gonna keep moving it where you can't get and do what needs to be done. And so, since they've changed the rules, let's take the rules and win. Let's because they can't keep changing them if we keep winning. And so we'll do that. And then we pray for those that have such this. I don't even want to call it. I'm not gonna call it racism, but this thing embedded in their hearts, that they do things to make sure that people don't get ahead and people don't go. And I know most people, you know, wouldn't think, you know, being a pastor, why would you be vocal about this? Because actually, where we are today, it was because of people like Dr. King, that was a pastor. It was people like David Ralph Abernathy and others, that Dr. Laurie, and those that pushed and to get the late John Lewis, that helped to push that sacrifice to help us to be able to get to the place that we would be able to express ourselves through a vote and because of a vote. And because they've changed the rules don't mean we've got to get discouraged and just say, well, it's over. No, it's not over. We're going to take those rules and we're going to win. I say this and I'm done. It's like if you change the rules for driving, and you say, well, you can't drive, you can't drive here or you can't drive there. We adopt to their rules, but we just change the way we do things, and we go another way around about it. In my city where I stay in, we've got a thing that's been going on with the mayor and the city council, and I don't know if I become an activist or whatever you call it, but I had a Zoom meeting with the mayor and the city council. It was my Zoom meeting. I invited them. They came, the chief of police, and everyone came to this meeting. So I had to meet with them. We were talking about these tickets they were giving out in the school zones. And we were expressing, and I have a Zoom call with residents of South Fulton every Monday. And we always get on and talk about it, and the councilmen come on and everything. And one of the things that we did in the area that they were giving out the tickets was not for the school zone. It was for the simple fact that they were giving out tickets 24/7, and they're only supposed to give them out during an hour before school, an hour after school, and then the cameras were supposed to be off, but the cameras were still going with this company that giving out these tickets, and people were getting 6 and 7 tickets and stuff. And so I jumped on board with it and started this thing. And so what a lot of people do, they said, okay, we got it. We know how to get around it. There's always a way around what you set. And so some people just start going a different way and never have to even worry about that anymore because they found out a way around what was set until there is a correction brought about this particular thing. And this has to be corrected. I know the president chimed in on it this morning. It has to be corrected. And, you know, we can't just sit up and talk about church and speaking in tongues. All that's good. But my children, my grandchildren have got to come behind me. And I know the Lord is coming, but he's not here yet. And since he's not here, while the time we got down here and the time I got left and you got left, we should be voicing our opinion about various things. And you don't have to agree with everything, and all of us don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, some things are too blatant. Some things are done right in front of our faces and no one says anything. And everyone's afraid to say something. It's done right in front of our face. It's not like they did it behind our back. They did this in front of the whole world. Changed the rules. And they're going to keep changing them and keep changing them. Because whenever they found out that we found out how to take the rules and use them to our advantage, they're going to keep changing them. So I encourage you, don't sit silent. Get in the fight. You may not live in Georgia, but wherever you are, believe you, they're changing the rules. They're doing things. And it would be different if they were doing it behind the scene, but they're doing it in front of everybody, news cameras and everybody. They don't even care anymore. They don't care. And then they try to flip it. They don't care. The rules change. You seen the insurrection at the Capitol. That was a rule change. They were never going to convict the president, former president, anyway. The rule change. But if it had been another group, if it would have been President Obama, let me put it that way, he would have been impeached. Simple as that. No doubt about it. He would have been impeached. And you might as well go on and admit that they would have impeached him. The one thing that I hate, whether it's politics, whether it's church, whatever it may be, the one thing that gets under my skin is people changing the rules and people having two sets of rules. That's a problem. If you got two sets of rules and you constantly changing the rules, something says that something about that is not right. And you can't change the rules and keep doing that and think that that's okay. You have to do better than that. All right, I'm through. I just thought I needed to come on and just say something because this rule change, these two sets of rules and this rule change thing is sort of getting out of hand. And I know we don't want to say nothing, but we got to say something. This is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand, and we see it getting out of hand, and nobody is saying anything. And there's a song they used to do in Church of God in Christ, so I won't be silent anymore. Somebody's got to say something. I saw a couple of pastors and stuff down this week that were talking with the governor and everything, and I moved my paper, but they sent me an email with the letter, a copy of the letter that they sent a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks, to the governor, to Governor Kemp. They sent him a letter. The pastors in Georgia and different ones, and they sent him a letter asking him to not sign this law, to read it, to look at it. And even though he said on the news today in his interview that he met with some pastors of Georgia, but he met with them about the COVID-19 vaccination things. He didn't meet with them about signing this law or whether it affect and how it would affect people. He signed it, and I believe he signed it without reading it. And the reason I believe that, again, is because it's a misdemeanor for you to give people water and food in the voting line. Now think about that. Even if the voting line is way down the way and the building is way up here, if you give somebody water and something to eat, you could be a misdemeanor charge for giving somebody something in the line. That's beyond. That's beyond trying to make sure that it's going to be a fair election. That's something else. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. Thank y'all so much for listening. Let's hit the ground running, y'all. This is 221. Here we got 222. We got to make some changes. And wherever else you are, we got to buckle down And if the courts don't give an injunction or overturn this thing, then we just gonna have to take these rules and flip them and let them work for us and let them see that you can change them. But it's still not gonna change what happens. We're in this to win it. We're in it for the long haul. We're not just here just for one thing. We're in it all the way because our future depends on it. Our children's future, our grandchildren's future, everything depends on this. So we're in it for the long haul. Well, thank y'all again so much. Please, by all means, let's go. Do make some posts about this thing. Let's talk about it and let's make some noise. Let's stir some stuff up around us. All right. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight.